Chapter 6, A New Kind of Trouble. When Marvin finally crawled through the cupboard wall into the family's living room, he was greeted by a dozen of his relatives in an anxious huddle. Their faces lit with relief when they saw him. Only cousin Elaine seemed somewhat let down. His mother rushed to him, gathering him in her many legs. "Marvin, oh darling, where were you? You gave us such a fright." "What happened, son?" Papa pressed. "Elaine said you'd gone to deliver the nickel, but when Albert and I weren't looking for you, we couldn't find you anywhere." "We thought something terrible had happened to you," Elaine added, her voice grave. "Why, it could have been anything. You might have caught a leg in one of the floorboards, or the nickel could have fallen on top of you, or you might have been crushed underfoot by one of the Pompadours making a midnight trip to the bathroom." "That's enough, Elaine," Uncle Albert said seriously. But Marvin's grandmother was not so easily quieted. "Marvin, Marvin, have you forgotten about Uncle George?" she cried, hugging him close. "Is life so cheap?" Marvin sighed. Of course he hadn't forgotten about Uncle George. Who could forget about Uncle George, whose fate was the subject of frequent cautionary lectures by the adult in the family? The lead tuba player in the neighborhood band, Uncle George had ventured out one night with the bass guitarist to retrieve a piece of dry macaroni, his preferred instrument, from beneath the stove. They were intercepted by a particularly bold and hungry mouse. The guitarist escaped, but Uncle George was not so lucky. "I'm sorry," Marvin said. "I didn't mean for anyone to worry. I was in James's room, up on his desk. That's why you didn't see me, Papa." "But, darling, whatever are you doing there?" asked Mother anxiously. "James isn't allowed to eat in his room. You know that. There wouldn't have been any food." "No, I wasn't looking for food," Marvin hesitated, scanning the ring of puzzled faces. Even his cousin Billy, the wild one, who'd lost a leg surfing in the garbage disposal, had never gone missing for an entire night. In the Beatles' world, that inevitably spelled doom. There were too many things that could go wrong. "Then what, Marvin?" Papa asked. "What were you doing?" Marvin didn't know how to explain it. The wonder of the drawing seemed too new to him, too fragile to share with his family. He took a deep breath. "I wanted to do something for James because his birthday party was so awful. You know how he got that ink set from his dad? Well, it was on the desk with the cap off." "Don't tell me you fell in," Mama gasped. No, Mama." The family waited. "I dipped my front legs in the ink and drew a picture for him." The room fell silent. Marvin looked from his mother to his father. "A picture?" Papa asked. "What kind of picture?" "The scene outside his window," Marvin mumbled, studying the floor. "The building across the street with the tree and the street lamp. Just a tiny picture of it." "But Marvin," Mama said softly, "you could have been caught, and now the picture, well, what will James think? Is it even big enough for him to see it? And if it is, who will he think drew such a thing? He's too old to believe in fairies." Marvin paused. "He knows I did it." "What?" The cry came in unison from the assembled relatives, their faces frozen in horror. Marvin hurriedly explained what had happened. "But James won't tell anyone. I know he won't. He wouldn't do anything to get me in trouble." Mama shook her head. "Marvin, I know you like James. We all do, but he's a human. He has no loyalty to our kind. He can't be trusted." Papa turned to Uncle Albert. "We'll have to get the drawing. That's the only answer." "No, Papa, you can't," Marvin cried. "It was a present for James. I made it for him. And Mr. and Mrs. Pompadour have seen it now. They think he was the one who drew it. You should have seen how happy that made him. You just can't take it away." "Marvin," his father said sternly, I don't think you understand the gravity of this situation. His grandmother nodded. I know you mean well, dear boy, but that drawing endangers all of us. Marvin turned desperately to his mother, but her response was firm. James can't keep it, darling, especially now that he knows you're responsible. There was a murmur of assent from the relatives. You'll have to give it back. Go now, while they're at church. Paper's heavy. You'll need a few extra legs. Marvin looked around the room in utter dejection. Okay, he said finally. Miserably, he led a small posse of beetles, consisting of his parents, Uncle Albert, Uncle Ted, and Elaine, out of the cupboard and through the quiet apartment in the direction of James's room. When the 6 beetles finally reached the desktop, the picture was right there where James had left it, resting at an angle atop the scanned sheets of newspaper. Marvin felt his heart leap wildly at the sight of it. His parents stopped dead in their tracks. Marvin? Mama said, her voice hushed. Papa's jaw dropped. Son, you made this? Elaine crawled eagerly across the paper, gushing praise. Marvin, it's beautiful. The lines are so little and neat. It looks exactly like what's outside, and you drew it in the dark, too. I'd like to see a human try that. They can't see for beans at night. It's stunning, my boy, Uncle Albert agreed. There's no other word for it. Uncle Ted clapped Mama on the back. Marvin's an artist. We got a real artist in the family. Do you remember Jeannie's murals, the one she made with toothpaste? She wasn't nearly this good. Marvin glowed with pride. Mama stroked his shell. It's a marvelous picture, darling, just marvelous, so beautiful and true. I can't imagine how you did it. No wonder James was pleased. What a gift. Papa studied the drawing regretfully. And what a shame we have to take it away, he said. Just then they heard the front door unlatch and a commotion in the foyer, punctuated by William's trademark bellow. Oh, the Pompadays are home from church, Mama cried. Quick, try to lift it. The beetles surrounded the paper, one at each end, 2 on the long sides, and wedged their shell under the edges. They could hear Jamie's sneakered feet thudding down the hall. There is no time, Papa hissed. We can't do it. Hurry, everyone under the piggy bank and down the wall, Uncle Ted ordered. What? Are we just going to leave Marvin's picture? Elaine protested. After all this, we're not taking it with us. Elaine, hush, Uncle Albert scolded. James will be here in 1 second. The beetle dashed for cover just as James came racing into the room. They clustered for a moment beneath the piggy bank. Then Uncle Ted climbed from the desk to the groove wainscoting and started down the wall, leading the way. Marvin hung back in the shadow of the piggy bank. Papa, he whispered, can I stay for a little while? I want to see what it'll do with the drawing. His father hesitated, poised between the wooden edge of the desk and the wall. I don't think that's a good idea, son. But you might move it, and that way I'll know where it is. Papa frowned, considering. I suppose that would be helpful. His eyes followed the retreating lines of the beetle, already halfway down the hall. All right, he decided, but you need to keep yourself hidden this time, Marvin. Do you understand? And we'll expect you home by dinner. Oh, I will be, Papa, Marvin promised. That's hours and hours away. The end of chapter 6, page 48.